Up, isn't it? So, hello and welcome to another happiness class. And we give you a quick intro so you know what's going on. This show happens every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. UK time. It's to do with everything you need to know about happiness from personal to global stuff. The first half is about finding the truth, and the second half is about anything you want to ask about life. Please do comment and ask questions anytime during the show. What am I going to talk about life? I'm going to say how to find the truth, what's the benefit, and what's the easy way to keep getting it. Loads of stuff at bigquestionsanswer.com for previous shows. My friend Mashoud is here. I'm going to be challenging. He's going to be challenging me. All the stuff I say is from Islam. Why Islam? Very quickly, because it's inclusive, scientific, and comprehensive. Let's get on with the show. So, I like to put a few things for people to see so they know what's going on. So, I'm going to talk about the benefits first, and I'll put it as a sort of question like, isn't it just better to lie and get what you want? And my answer, in short, is going to be telling the truth is about keeping your eyes open. Maybe it sounds a bit deep, which is not something to avoid. Any brief comments on that? Like, I haven't really explained anything yet, but any thoughts on
Yeah.
that,
What does that
Mashoud?
mean? What does that mean, Khalid? I don't know what that means.
Keeping your
Keeping my
eyes
eyes
open,
open.
yeah,
Yeah.
metaphorical. It means like thinking about your life. Don't go blindly in your life. Like, don't haphazardly make a plan, have a target, go for it. Think about what's happening in your life. Think about how you're feeling when you're doing wrong things. That's what really keeping your eyes open means. Not like these physical eyes, like the
Hmm.
inwards eyes.
So
Think
why
about how you're
can't I
feeling.
just lie to get small things and my goal is to get rich quick?
Cool. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm purposely not saying too much, but just at least explaining like the brief of what I just said for now.
Hmm.
And so, as I say, this is supposed to be Islam, right? So it wouldn't be Islam if I was just saying stuff by myself. So I'm going to start quoting stuff. Let me get my first massive quote. Now, I've definitely got way too much stuff this time. Like I just produce material, but I don't know how it will fit in a show, right? I try to minimize it, but it's actually really hard.
Oh my god.
So I know it's crazy, right? And this is not like the direct translation. This is me trying to explain the translation so you can understand something, right?
You've
Because
inserted a bit of your commentary into this verse.
yeah, it's like, and it's a commentary that is kind of like from something called a five-volume commentary. By the way, just a good point. Um, all the notes and all the quotes in the description below, and they link to the original sources and all this kind of stuff, right? So the original things don't have like one, two, three options. So basically, what's happening here? Um, this is a quote from the Holy Quran. There's like 10 different levels of truth. Okay. And I'm not going to go through all 10 of them because we don't even have enough time, right? But it's really interesting. And that's what I found really interesting. It says, surely men who, one, submit. And submit, what does that mean? It means to not deny truths because of their egos. Maybe that sounds really deep. Okay. Themselves to God. So they submit themselves to God, and women who submit themselves to God. And number two, believing. And that in the commentary that I've copied from is about whose feelings are in line with the academic truths they have previously accepted. And there's like 10 other steps, which I'll roughly talk about in a bit. Um, but my brief comment on that goes something like there are different levels of accepting the truth, and each stage has their inherent and greater benefits as you go up the levels. Okay, so the verse states 10 different levels of following the truth, and we can infer different inherent benefits. So it's inferring
Hmm.
stuff. So just any thoughts, just like Mashoud, I know it's crazy deep stuff, but first thoughts before I really explain anything.
Yeah, I mean, I had to think about this. You gave me this question in WhatsApp, and
Yeah.
I just pondered over it a little bit. And I was thinking, yeah. I mean, I keep thinking like stuff that I can get up to, like little lies here and there, and I can get really short-term gains, like super quick.
Mm,
I mean, Amazon is a great example. The app where their customer services is exceptional. and I can take well advantage of that. You know, complain, hey, that product didn't come properly, or someone opened it, and they don't question. They just send out another product, or they
So
refund
I'm going
straight
to give you
away.
a short answer to what you're saying. Something I'm going
Go
to
on.
come to later, but I want to let's make this a proper conversation rather than me going through my material too quickly, right? You can get away with nothing, right? You
Oh.
think you can get away with something, but you will beat the hell out of yourself, right? This is psychologists are seeing this more and more. So psychologists are finding out all sorts of strange things about human beings. Like, for
Mhm.
example, they're doing tests now, right? And they're proving everything religion has always been saying. Like, if you want to be happier, spend stuff on other people. It's
Hmm.
really weird. They're measuring these things like, oh, they were right all along, right?
So
I'm
you're
telling
saying that
you,
if I lie to get like I don't know up the promotion ladder and stuff like that, you think it's gonna karma is gonna come back and
karma hits you
bite me on the
straight away.
backside?
There's no like, don't wait for something bad to happen to you. You won't like yourself. This is something I'm going to go into, I think, in the next verse of the Holy Quran
Okay, that's interesting.
that talks about that, right? Immediately, you won't like yourself. That's it. You can't lie to yourself. And that there's a weird mechanism called your conscience. It'll beat the crap out of you, and you'll never be happy, and you won't enjoy your life. That's it. That's my
That's
short
quite good.
version.
I mean, I guess yeah, that's what Islam has always been saying. But I guess it's
Yeah.
quite interesting that now you're saying that
Yeah.
the world is caught up
Yeah, people have
with that.
experimented with this materialistic experiment and they're not happy. They're like so unhappy. Psychologists will tell you most drugged up society ever, right? Because they really don't like
Mm.
themselves, right? Because they missed all the stuff that's actually important, that actually makes you happy. So I'm just gonna throw in some stuff because I've got so many good things in here that I want to say them, right?
Mhm.
So the first stage, right, is about basic acceptance of the truth, right? Academic, intellectual level, right? Okay, so it's not actually action or anything, but what you're doing. So the inherent benefit of that straight away is if you're accepting the truth, which takes a bit of humility, right? You have to
Hmm.
submit your will to God because we are incredibly stupid. You don't underestimate how
And
stupid
stubborn.
we are. There's plenty of that, right? Plenty of evidence from psychologists. We're incredibly stupid. And what makes us the most stupid is our egos. Our egos give us a short-term vision of what we want. Okay. But it doesn't, it tricks you again and again. You're never happy
It's
that
the
way.
first sin recorded in Islam.
Really? See,
Arrogance
you're
and
going to tell
ego.
me stuff. Cool. See,
Of
this is interesting.
in Islamic tradition,
Yeah.
when Adam was created, and I don't want to go into the details about it, this is all a kind of a
Yeah.
story and a metaphor. God
Yeah.
commanded another being, Iblis, to submit
Yeah.
to Adam,
Yeah.
and Iblis, that being, said, "No, I am greater than him.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
am."
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
ego stopped him from submitting.
Yeah, see,
First
this
sin.
that is so
How cool is that?
interesting. I love that. I love that story. I love that story a lot, but now you come up with a different angle that I've never thought about. That's
There
awesome.
you go.
Cool. So basically, if you have basic acceptance of the truth, your benefit is that you do less stupid things. Like you're going, oh my gosh, I know that God exists. Maybe I shouldn't rob the bank because, or whatever, or fake, like say my Amazon delivery didn't arrive, sort of thing, right? Okay, because I know
Hmm.
God's watching me. That's a very basic level. But there's so many, so many things like, oh, I know the truth is I shouldn't eat pork. Now I'm not going to eat it. And guess what? I'm going to be more healthy, for example, right? So this is
Hmm.
just a basic thing. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Islam has got loads of traditions all about that. A huge tradition. Have we got time for one? I mean, it's quite an interesting one.
Time runs,
Um,
but go on, go for it. Go on.
but
Let's
yeah,
enjoy
so
the
there's
show.
one particular scholar you might have heard of, Abdul Qadir Jilani. So
Yeah.
he was a kid, and his mom sent him off on a kind of journey to go somewhere, and she had sewn like 40 gold pieces in his cloak.
Oh, I know. And the
You know the
robbers and the
story, and
thieves.
robbers
Go on, you
came
tell the
along.
story. It's a great story. Go on.
So he was traveling within a caravan, a whole bunch of other people, and bandits came along and caught the people, and mugged all the people. And as they were sorting everything out, they ignored him because he was like a young teenager. And one of the bandits came up to him and goes, "Oh boy, you know, who are you?" And he's answering his question, and he goes, "Oh, have you got any valuables on you?" And the boy goes, "Yes, I've got 40 pieces of gold on me." And he laughed it off, and he goes, "Ah, this kid is lying and joking." And he left him.
Yeah.
But then later on, the bandit leader found out, isn't it, about this kid who's claiming this. So he
Yeah.
called him over, and he goes, "What's going on? What have you got valuables?" And he goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Show me." And the kid took his cloak off
Yeah.
and ripped it and showed him. This is
So what
it.
was the
And
lesson though?
so the lesson was basically the child had promised his mom that he would never ever tell a lie.
Yeah.
And the end thing, whether the tradition is true, I
But
mean,
I want
probably
to
is
tell
true.
this to people who don't necessarily believe in God, right? Okay.
Well, it turned things
Yeah.
around. The tradition goes that the bandits and all them basically felt the awe. They were inspired by this child who stuck
Mm.
to the truth no matter what, and
Yeah.
they themselves then turned their life around,
See,
and it changed everything.
I'm feeling the story now. Like, imagine those people whose lives were changed. Imagine that kid who changed their lives.
Exactly,
You,
and
that's
he grew up.
priceless.
He grew up to be an amazing scholar and remembered always now. So
Yeah. So
things work out.
what you do builds up is another thing. Like you're an honest guy, it builds up. If you got a flawed character, that also builds up. So I suppose that's
Yeah.
one of the many things you can learn from that. So cool. That, by the way, I said like a tiny fraction of what I wanted to say. Do check out the notes that I provide for the show. Let's just jump on to the next thing.
Well, it's an
um
interesting topic about truth. I think the Promised Messiah has a
yeah.
dilemma that says this, that the Quran is the
Yeah.
one book that stresses on truth more than any other book, any other scripture out
Interesting.
there. So it
Mm.
stresses so much on truth that don't tell a lie, stick to the truth, stick to the truth, don't deny the truth. It's pretty important in Islam.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay,
Mm.
so method. How do you find the truth? So question, I'm putting in the sort of question and answer to help people focus. Lots of people think they know the truth. What makes you any different? Okay, like talking to
Mm.
me. What do I know, right? Okay. Answer, we all know the truth. I'm just helping you focus on the tools that lead you to it. So it's not like I know like the truth differently to you. We've all got the tools, but we're not using it because we're in a sort of materialistic mindset. We're ignoring all the tools that we have that actually help us out. Okay, so that's a brief answer. Any thoughts about that? Disagree as much
Explain
as you
that
want.
further, then. I mean, give me some examples. The Orthodox Christian will say that he has the truth. The atheist will say you don't have the truth. We don't know exactly what the truth is.
Yeah.
They kind of sit on the fence, or the agnostic, I guess, will sit on the fence. So, what do you mean by that? That we all have
This is
the
this is
truth?
what I mean. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So verse of the Holy Quran, and I do call to witness the self-accusing soul that the day of judgment is a certainty. So maybe that just sounds like it's like poetry. You kind of have to think about it, or maybe you need somebody to help you think about it. But hopefully, I'm going to help explain it. So we all have the self-accusing soul. It's called your conscience, right? We all have this compass, and it's a very interesting thing. So it's very interesting that we all us as human beings have been programmed is with this weird conscious that tells us all the same thing to basically be good, right? And you go, how on earth can you say it's telling us the same thing? Have you met Hitler or have you heard of Hitler, right? Okay. But people who do bad things really hate themselves. They really struggle with themselves. They can't get away with it. This is the kind of thing I was talking about, right? So everybody has access to this thing where this is part of our blueprint, mystical thing called a conscience, or over here, the self accusing soul. And what happens is, sure, you can have an atheist. Let's pick the atheist, right? The atheist goes, God doesn't exist, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Then, but he has to actively deny lots of truths that he knows, like probabilities of all this stuff happening by mistake and all this kind of stuff, right? I've
Hmm.
been an atheist. I've been down that road, right? Okay. You kind of have to deny lots of truths. Okay. Now there are limitations to this compass, this called your conscience, because it can only work out according to the facts that it knows, right? So if you give it the wrong facts, you get the wrong results, right? But
Hmm.
if you keep following the truth, if I start by saying the Earth is flat, somebody told me the Earth is flat, gave me some evidence, and I believed him. I follow it. Fair enough, right? But then after a while, you're going to have tons of other evidence saying Like the Earth isn't flat. Like how comes there's always a curvy thing on there's also
And then
sort
the
of I
horizon.
don't want to
Yeah.
yeah, like people who know the evidence for
You need to
why
get
the
a
Earth
flat
is
earther
round.
on this show for your next one, isn't it?
Right. Well, you never know. I don't mind if we can get one, that's cool, right? I'll even pay him. Don't worry. Yeah, I don't mind. Seriously. I've been looking to pay people, like all sorts of strangers, to come on
You're
the
not
show. But
paying me
anyway,
for this. This is.
yeah, I know, because you're a good friend, isn't it?
Okay, fair enough.
You missed
Okay.
out. All right, £10. You could have got £10. Anyway, so the point is, we all have a conscience. So same thing with the atheist, right? He has to deny lots and lots of obvious things. Okay, and so yeah, like they'll have to start. Yeah, so maybe they don't haven't met the people who can give them reasonable arguments, but that's what I'm saying. Necessarily, you've got a conscience, and follow that conscience. You'll be led the right way, because if you starting believing crazy things, there'll be so much counter evidence that it'll make your life really difficult. That's what I'm saying.
I guess so, but I mean, I don't know. I've met many, let's say, a Christian who does believe, according to us, different
Okay,
things.
let me do
It,
two things, right?
hmm,
Christian, we're both in this debate group, right?
hmm.
How many times have we completely obliterated their arguments? Like a million times, right? Okay. And they're like, oh yeah, and they delete their messages, and like they try really hard to get around. They
Well,
know
no,
they're
I
wrong.
guess the point is then for them though, maybe they've convinced themselves though, isn't it? That some people have
Whatever.
convinced themselves
Right.
that they've got the truth.
I'm saying my version is, because I'm keeping it short. They're
Yeah.
ignoring the truth inside them. They can see it's wrong. They're deleting their messages. How many times you have to be proven wrong? You could I don't believe, so I have a lot of personal conversations with people, right?
Hmm.
And I find that you really can't lie to yourself. Like people let it out sometimes, right? So that's one thing. Even like atheists who say they don't believe in God, right? Okay, they've actually done tests on atheists. You might have seen this thing, like go and insult God, and they put a thing on their skin to measure how nervous they feel. And actually feel nervous when they're insulting God, and they're asking God to punish one of their friends or their close family, right? So
Hmm.
there's only so much you can lie, and you can't really lie. When we hate lying to ourselves. Yeah, deep
Interesting.
down we
Okay
hate
then.
lying to ourselves. So that's kind of just a small idea. What else have I got
Yeah, the
here?
Quran talks about that,
Yeah,
doesn't it? When people who will deny God, but then when they're in serious trouble,
yeah,
like in the middle of the ocean or whatever, then they'll call out to him, and then when he delivers them to land and they're safe, they return back to their denial.
yeah. I mean,
So I
I
guess,
know atheists who've done that themselves, right?
mm,
Um, like there was an atheist, and I told him, he's one of my students. It's like everybody has signs that God exists, right? And he said, you know what, it's true, because I was in the middle of a forest. This is a kid doing the Duke of Edinburgh board, and he was so scared that he's like lost, right? Like,
mm,
when you're a kid, you think, oh, it's the end of the world. I'm lost
yeah.
in the forest. And he goes, I don't know, God, who you are, like God of Buddha, God of whoever, right? Just lead me the way. Somebody tapped him on the back out of nowhere, right? And then after that, he never insulted God. He used to love insulting God in my shows. I mean, not in my shows, sorry, in my lessons. I
mm,
didn't have a show then. All right. Okay. So anyway, so um, what else is there? We cannot attain truth by ourselves. Islam is a huge. Okay, there's another thing, which is Islam puts a lot of emphasis on learning, right? So our
mm,
conscience is kind of like only one step in front of us, depending on the truths we learn. So if we don't keep learning, we won't we won't be able to add to the truths we know. Like, so what our conscience does is say yes or no, right? But if
mm.
you don't put any facts in front of it, it knows nothing,
Okay.
right? It's kind of this close. But if you want to know truth way ahead of you, then you need to keep learning. And Islam puts
Mm,
a huge amount of confidence, I mean, importance to that. It says even like the blood of a learner or somebody who's seeking knowledge is worth more than a martyr's, because you could be a person who doesn't know what they're doing about Islam. Like they just say, "Oh, well, I'm going to go to a war and fight." Many people do, right? Blindly, they don't even know that Islam is forbidding it or something, right?
mm,
There's more value in using your brain, the brain that God gave you, learn from it, and it actually deepens your knowledge. So God gave you a brain to use it, so that you can deepen your knowledge of spirituality included. Yeah, there's a
Totally,
huge.
totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean they say the traditions are that the scholars are continuing the mission of the prophets to learn and then to educate others. And like yeah, like you said, the prophet himself said to seek knowledge even if you have to go to the other side of the world. In his case,
Yeah,
at that time was
China or
China.
whatever.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. What is message we got?
Oh no, just blocking it. It's some dodgy messages. I had to block it.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, some people have been spamming me lately. Yeah.
They don't like the truth,
So
isn't it, Khalid?
no, like really dodgy messages. Let's just leave it at that. It's not anything useful. All right. Okay. 5 seconds. I'm not going to be greedy. Please do go to the description. There's tons of stuff I'm not talking about here. Um, anyway, so let me copy paste the next thing. So time does fly, man. Is time
Yeah.
flying or not? Yeah. Um, copy paste the source. All right. So, yep. All right. Um, so, oh, I didn't copy the word source. Never mind. Maybe I should. Let's do it. Let's make it look a bit better. I don't know.
What?
Being a bit weird. I don't know. I'm just kind of like trying to break it into three categories. So we've talked about the benefits. Then we talked about the method for finding it. Yeah, like your conscience. And now, like, this is the next kind of adventure question, right? Isn't I didn't even type it properly. Isn't finding the truth? So I do these things very quickly, all this material. So isn't finding the truth, or even small truths, so big T and small t, too hard? So the English is terrible. Isn't it too hard and worth the effort? Like, oh my god, am I gonna like figure everything out myself? That's just crazy, incredibly hard work, isn't it? Wouldn't you say?
Mm.
Like we were talking about vaccines, and I was telling you like doesn't do anything, and like, oh, but how do you know? That's really like hard work. You have to use your brains all this time, and you've
Ignorance
got
is
better
bliss,
things to
isn't
do.
it?
Oh, wow. I mean,
Huh?
go back to question one. I told you. All right. Don't keep your eyes closed. It's like walking into a wall. What bliss is walking into a wall? There's no bliss in it, mate.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
People do think that. That's how comedy is shown. Like, do you remember Friends? Do you ever watch that movie?
Yep.
Like, yeah. Joey, right? Joey
I like
was
Joey.
the dumb guy, but he seemed to enjoy his life, right? But
Hmm.
actually, in real life, if you're dumb like that, you're gonna hate your life. I meet loads of people like that, right?
The dumb
I
people out
mean,
there.
I meet people who think it's just a holiday, and actually it can be a holiday, but life can be a holiday, but completely the opposite of what you think. The people who have no like responsibility in their life, no planned, self-imposed responsibility. Loads of psychologists are saying, especially Jordan Peterson. Have heard about him?
Yeah, he's really good.
He's
I like
very
him.
big on responsibility. He's saying people who don't do that, he's a clinical psychologist. He meets people like this all the time. They are high on drugs because they hate their life so much because there's no meaning. Okay. And he's definitely not the first person to say that. Meaning is fundamental to happiness.
See, that's one of my biggest issues with like an atheist in a way, where if I was to deny God, what is my life then? What is my purpose? What was I just placed plonked here on earth as an accident or by chance? What is my
Absolutely. This is
meaning?
the thing
It's just
that this is cool. There's this kind of subtle. They're called agnostic, but really sort of basically down in the bottom of their hearts are atheists, right? A lot of people, right? Okay, I say not deep down because everybody believes in God deep down, according to this kind of psychological experiment I talked about.
hmm
But basically, people live like atheists, right? And people that is why people are suffering so badly. It's called nihilism. Basically means you don't believe anything has a meaning. There's just random. Everything's random. But then when things are random, there's no, this might be a bit deep, there's no cause for hope because random means jumbled. Hope
mm.
is projecting something into the future, and you can only project things into the future if there's a pattern. Randomness does not make you happy. Randomness is the opposite of purpose and design and focus and having a
Chaos.
plan in your life. Okay, and so this is a major thing that psychologists have known for ages: the need for purpose. Okay, if you don't have purpose, so there's Viktor Frankl, right?
Hmm.
Man's search for meaning. Okay, it's basically like the top psychologist, like there's one of the fundamental needs, and we don't. This is why I do this show. People, very few people know how to be happy. Very few people know the basic elements of what it needs to be happy. Like, how many people do you know realize that you need meaning in your life to be happy? How many people do you know?
Mm, not many.
In fact, people go, "Oh, meaning in life, that's a joke. It's zero, it's five, it's minus two," right? Right?
My
That's
purpose
how
is to
serious.
be happy, according to many people as well. That's their purpose.
Yeah, so we
But
kind of talked about that. I think happiness is the output or the result of a good life. It's
hmm,
not the target itself. Like, well, it could be a target. Like it could be your litmus test, right? Am I happy? But happy doesn't mean like high on drugs, happy momentarily. It's kind of happy long term. So if you get high on drugs, sure you'll be happy for 5 seconds, right? But then you're going to be really miserable for the whole of your life, and you'll kill
yeah,
yourself probably,
instant
right?
gratification is Islam is not really
Yeah,
favor that.
Islam is very long term, and long term actually makes you much happier. Okay, even in the
Mm,
short term, if you think short, long term, you actually be happier, but in a subtle way. It's the difference between, I call it the difference between vegetables and sugar. Like you get
mm,
high on sugar, but vegetables, you feel good inside. Yeah, sure, you feel a bit good in sugar, and then you're like your immune system dies. You've got a flu all the time. Anybody you know about health,
yeah,
right?
yeah, we
So
all do that.
sugar, you don't. I eat a bit of sugar. I try to control it because I get too excited. But anyway, that's another story. Okay, I'm not perfect. Okay, but anyway, so what do I want to say about this? It's
What's a
good that we're
small
having like
truth? Give me that. What are you talking? What do you mean by a small truth?
a small truth.
So I'm
Okay,
assuming the big truth is like the purpose of life, God, finding God, things like that,
yeah, just
perhaps.
like um, you know, eating pork, let's call that a really small truth. It's bad for you. So
Mm.
you don't even have to be a Muslim, right? Okay. By the way, Christians and Jews should be not eating pork, but anyway, that's another story, right? Because the Bible says.
Jews
But
don't, but
anyway,
a lot of Christians will. But
yeah.
they don't.
Of
Yeah, they
course
don't
they'll
have to, but
debate it. Like,
yeah.
let them debate it, right? But anyway, the point is that's just an example of small truth. There's millions of small truths. I'll tell you another small truth that will make you happier.
Mm.
Shaking hands. Shaking hands. Okay. So you go,
Mm.
what's that got to do with anything, right? Apparently, so um Prophet Muhammad, so peace be upon him, said, "Shake hands or remove bad feelings from you." Oh, about 1,500 years later, the scientists go, "Oh, you get serotonin, no, not serotonin, wrong one, oxytocin when you shake hands, and it's called the bonding chemical." Wow, do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
mind blowing, billions and billions of mind blowing truths. And this is what, in short, is what I want to say here. Yes, it's really hard to figure out all the truths yourself. So luckily, there's God, and He's giving you. You don't have to be a
Who tells you the
philosopher.
truth?
Yeah, we'll give it to you, right? And like, then the question becomes like, where's the truth, in Islam or somewhere else? Like, how you're just saying Islam because you're a Muslim or something, right? Actually, I had a choice to not be Muslim. Those people choose not to be Muslim, even if they're born into it. But let me tell you how you know. Okay, if you have a religion with one thing wrong in it, it can't be the truth because it's not from God. God knows
Mm.
everything, right? Okay, so you can go to loads of religions and test them out that way, right? Christianity, the first thing the Bible says is that Earth was made before the rest of the universe. Wrong. Forget it, right? There might be some truth. Forget it. Let's go quick about it. Let's go to Buddhism. Here's a funny one about Buddhism because I've been looking into it.
Mm.
Buddhists hardly ever quote Buddha. Hardly ever. They just make up quotes, and if you find out what they're quoting, it's next to never from the Buddha. So they don't even believe it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
they don't
fancy
have
stuff. They're like, it's
traceability, I
fancy.
guess, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you believed in your religion, you would quote Buddha, right? But you don't. Okay. And actually, Buddha believes in God. That's another problem because they most of the
Mm.
people if you do a bit of research, you find that out. And Buddhists, but a lot of Buddhists, New Age Buddhists, I call them Western Buddhists, don't like that because it's kind of an escape from believing in God. So, wow,
Interesting.
cool. So we are in the second half. Should repeat. Please do ask questions. Don't just spam me. by the way. Okay. Okay, so we're in the second half where we ask questions about, oh yeah, you don't want to follow these links, I'm blocking them. Okay, I kind of seen where they go. Okay. All right. So, I'm trying to make it nice and personal to Mashood, so it's more
Oh
interesting for
no,
you, right?
nothing. I'm not
Okay.
interesting. So
Oh,
yeah, we'll
okay.
come to
It
that.
sounds like one of the comments that I didn't put in. Like you keep saying you're not interesting, but that's an interesting comment to make by itself. Oh, where's my questions gone? Oh, my questions are here. There we go. Um, well, whether you're interesting or not, I think you'll find this one interesting. I mean, I've already given you the questions I'm going to be asking, right? Okay. So my job pays well, but is the opposite of everything I want to do in my life. Should I be bothered about that? Yeah.
Mm.
Are you bothered about it? Any thoughts and feelings?
This is a hard one. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
that is
Sure, it's good. That's
to
why we're
me. I
doing these
mean,
questions.
I don't I don't hate my job.
Sure.
I'm content with it. I'm happy with it. But you hear that in the news where I don't know a certain a postman or whatever will win the lottery and they're like, yeah, they get £1 million, but they still go back to their jobs. They still do their jobs because they love their jobs.
Hmm.
I if I won £1 million, £2 million, I would not even bother going back to my job. I would quit there and then, and not even bother giving my notice in either. But
Right.
it's a hard one. I don't know. Do I?
Okay, so some things seem hard, right? Okay,
Mm,
because you're trying to solve the problem in one go. And first, even you're trying to solve the problem is the problem. Okay, because you think you have the answers. You know, I'm going to paste it here as well. I think it looked better there. That's cool.
oh,
Okay, yeah, look at that. I actually programmed
double.
all this. Can you believe it? Yeah. Okay, so the fact that you're going to solve it is part of the problem. You're not going to solve it. You're not going to solve it. God's going to solve it, right?
Mm,
How do I, so how am I going to explain it? Because this is not about, this is supposed to be scientific discussion. It's not just about faith, because that's part of the problem with these kind of discussions. Like, just believe me. Like, no, you're not going to believe me, right? Okay. So I'm going to come beginning like with what does God say, right?
mm,
In the first verse of the Quran, he describes himself as Rahim. Okay, what does Rahim mean? It's really deep stuff. Okay, it means somebody who encourages you to do well, and when you do well, supports you in that journey, right?
mm,
Like whichever so even if you want to become a millionaire, you work really hard at it, God will make things happen to support you as well, even in that spiritual
mm,
stuff, material stuff, whatever, right? So you end up getting the result of what you are aiming for. You truly aiming for. You can tell the world one thing, but what you get is actually what you're really aiming for. Okay.
mm.
So, for example, and by the way, I think Mashoud's very humble in many ways. He's always playing himself down, whatever. I think just for the fact that you came on the show, like you're saying, oh, my life is not interesting, or I'm not interesting, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not paraphrasing. I think it's just cool that you came on the show, and most people too scared to even have a crazy conversation about their personal life on a live stream. So it's cool. That's
Yeah.
interesting by itself, and he does a lot of interesting things, right? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, I want to go into his knife collection and okay, stop talking, stop talking. Samurai sword, stop talking.
I gave one to you. There you go. Have
Yeah,
you?
no, go on, challenges. Anyway, anyway, okay, so you get the automatic results of what you want, really, really want. Okay. So for example, you might be going, oh, but I need the money. I'm really scared. This is what controls people. This is most people. They're scared of not having enough money to pay the bills to buy stuff they don't need. There's very
Mm.
little you need. Okay. But if you need stuff, I'm not really pointing at you particularly because I know you're a lot more spiritual than a lot of people I know, right? Okay. But generally, people they need to buy stuff to impress other people. You just buy really expensive stuff you don't need,
Yeah, that's
right?
true. That is true.
Um, and people are
I guess
finding it more and more.
with yeah, it's just trickier when you have dependents. Now my job in life is not only just working, but also I have dependents. I have people I need to support,
Yeah.
children, a wife, who, who don't work, and I'm allowing them to do. My wife does a lot of work in the mosque, a lot of voluntary work and stuff like that, because I'm able to provide for that. So that's where it's challenging. I mean, my ideal job, what would it be? Yeah, probably getting away from all this
Yeah,
technology.
you want to be a farmer like me,
I want
right?
to be a
We've talked
farmer.
about
I
this.
won't be able
Yeah.
to come on your show then, though. I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Without
no, you
any.
can be a farmer. I had a
Uh,
farmer on my show, Salim. You know Salim. Do you know Salim? He's
My wife went to his
yeah.
farm the other
It's a
time.
cool place to go
But
to.
yeah, I wanna probably chat to him. I think I will
I just
chat to
got
him.
2 chickens from him. Like he's been killing loads of chickens himself and
Oh wow!
handing them out.
You
Go
see
to his
that
website.
that's
Maybe I'll
getting
link
back
it.
to nature. I think is
Yeah.
what I kind of want.
So what
Uh,
I'm saying is, so okay, this is the thing I was going to say about his humility that he didn't say. I think maybe I'm gonna might be completely wrong, right? But you could, if you wanted to, you could push really hard on your career and go more in that direction. But for what I'm getting from you is you actually reduce your workload a little bit so you can do things that are more meaningful for you,
yeah, I do try to
right?
do that. I mean,
I
in
think
the
you said
past,
something like contracting once and all this kind of stuff, but you
well,
don't
in the
do
past,
it.
I've reduced my working hours and got a pay cut so that I could spend more time studying.
Right. So
For
that's
my
what happens when you really, so what you really want comes through that way, but you still have some fear that something will go wrong, right?
yeah, yeah,
So,
that's always the
right.
back of the head,
So
back of the mind,
I've,
isn't it?
this is the thing, right? This is my explanation of you don't fix it, God fix it. So the more you truly, and this is not for everybody, by the way, right? Because not
Mm.
everybody's, let's say, entrepreneur material. So if you're entrepreneur material, and this is again in the Quran, um, there's 2 different kinds of human beings, right? And one of them, like there's many qualities, but one of them is you don't give a whatever about anybody's opinion. Like that's the definition of a jinn. There's a jinn and a nas, and those two combine to make the definition of insan, which means human being. So human beings are 2 categories of
Mm.
people, right? Okay, so this is not for everybody exactly, right? Okay, so by nature, like I care less about what other people think than the average person. Like you've probably seen that. I've demonstrated like a million times, right?
Mm.
Probably, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
and so just because I do it doesn't mean I'm better. And in fact, with that comes a lot of dangers as well. Like I could go dark side much faster, yeah. And I've
Yeah.
seen that, right?
You've been kicked out
Okay,
of
you've
many
got less
places.
social rules, right? I don't care what you think, so I'm going to do more bad things or more good things, right? Okay,
Mm.
so in my life, I've noticed slowly, and this is how God's been doing things. The less I care about money, the more God gives me money for nothing. Crazy stuff. It's like insane, more and more and more. Like I'll give you a really quick example, but I don't
Go on.
really talk about these kind of things, right?
It's time for you
So
to get
I've
personal
had
now.
times when you had no money, right? And somebody comes to visit us, we spend all our money, we've got zero in the bank account. And then as soon as they're gone, God gives me a new job. And it happens like all the time. That's not kind of normal part of my life sort of thing. Yeah. So the more you kind of depend on God, the more you believe. So this is another thing. Like God says, I am like you think I am. So if you think I am like a stingy God, like God stingy, which is really rude considering how much He's given you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
then I'm going to be like that with you because that's what you deserve to that extent. So there's a big spectrum. So it's not like you think badly of me, I'm going to be evil to you, or you think I'm really good. It's kind of like a massive spectrum. Like where you are, God meets you to that much,
Where you are, basically.
plus more, right?
Hmm.
Because that's another thing God has said. Like you take one step towards me, I'll take 10 steps towards you.
You come to you walking, I go to you running, isn't it? God says.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And to the extent that if you keep going in that direction, you'll feel like God is constantly with you. Like you move your hand, God's moving the hand. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Hazur, our Khalifa, has often spoken about people making massive financial sacrifices and being hugely blessed afterwards.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be our intention, I think,
Yeah.
to
No.
give in order to get. But it happens, and a lot of
So
times it won't happen. But
yeah,
God is just
and
simply just
it's as I say, doing good things is its own reward, as they say, right? But you got to try it. And
Yeah.
psychologists are saying more and more. And then when you do the good things, you'll see other crazy things happening, which make you feel more free. Because otherwise, we're all trapped in a rat race, thinking, "Oh, we can't lose the job because of whatever." And I'm not even saying lose the job. That's kind of like too simplified. Anyway, next
Yeah.
interesting question.
It went red.
Okay.
It went red for a while.
Um. So again, I don't even claim to know the answer with this for this, but it's kind of like interesting, more fun that I don't know the answer, right? 100%. I just did a tiny bit of research.
Hmm.
Okay, so is Muslim way of fasting better than intermittent water fasting? So
Explain what you got to explain that for some people. Some people
yeah,
won't know what intermittent
exactly,
fasting is, isn't it?
exactly. So intermittent, and you can correct me because you're the pro and you do it every day. So intermittent is like you basically, I don't know why they use a complicated word. It just means like you find 8 hours usually is the famous number, I think, or 16 hours you don't eat. 8 hours? Is it 8 hours you
16
do?
hours
16? Oh my gosh, that's hard
is the
work, man.
minimum.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy stuff,
The
man.
more you can
Anyway,
do, the more better, basically.
yeah. Okay, so whatever hours you pick it, right? You pick it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So with
Okay,
me, yeah, go on.
and water fasting, so intermittent, whatever, however you say it, right? You pick a number of hours, you don't eat, but you're allowed to drink in a water fasting. That's the that's the main Western way at the moment, isn't it?
Hmm.
People water fast. They don't really do the dry fast. Uh, It's not as popular, right?
You won't find that at all, really. Yeah, I haven't found many people who'll just say don't eat or drink.
Yeah,
But I mean, my routines generally these days are I'll have like a lunch breakfasty kind of thing at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
yeah.
and then I'll have dinner at around 6:30,
Hmm.
and that's it. So
Yeah,
from
yeah,
six
yeah.
thirty in the evening,
Breakfast and six. Is that 16 hours? Wow, it doesn't
so
feel like 16
it
hours.
goes a bit more. I mean, it varies. I mean, it can go up to 16 to 18 hours.
Hmm.
You'll be
So you
surprised
said you
though.
have breakfast in the morning, right? What
I have
time?
breakfast at 1 in the afternoon.
How is that 16 hours?
So 1 in the afternoon,
1 to 6.
that's when I'm eating. I eat between 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock.
Two. Oh, and then you're sleeping through half the fast.
Exactly. So yes, from like 7 p.m.
Wow, I had it
till
inverted.
1 p.m. the next day is you don't eat anything. You drink water, but you don't eat
Cool.
anything.
So let's just get people, before I answer the question, let's get people a little bit interested. Just like name three benefits that you know, like without making it too long. Just three benefits of fasting.
Yeah, it's a massive time saver. You don't need to prepare food. I just have 2 meals a day, and boom, that's it.
Okay.
I find it really just it's easy. It's really just straightforward.
But you're not
Um,
saying the benefits. Cool. Sure, it's easy. That's good. It's like
there's
easier
loads of
than most
health
people.
benefits. There's massive health benefits. You give
Yeah,
your whole
okay, but
body
see,
a
that's not
break.
going to help anybody, is it? Loads of. Anyway, I'm just joking. But anyway, so yeah, actually, good for your brain. It's
Yeah,
good for your immune
yeah,
system. It clears. It's a detox. You can just keep going on and on and on, right? There's so many
exactly.
crazy benefits of it, right? Okay, so here's my answer, right? So there's this brain surgeon, right? He's doing surgery. He's like the best brain surgeon, and then some kid comes along and he copies everything, but he just says, you know, that little tiny bit of tumor, I'm just gonna leave it in there. And the brain surgeon's like, what an idiot, right? And you probably say the same, what an idiot, right?
Mm,
What's this kid doing, right? But generally the surgery goes right, but it's just not perfect, okay, because there's a bit of tumor left in, right? Okay, that's how I see God comes up with the idea of fasting, right? He's like for centuries people thought it was a stupid idea until recently, right?
mm,
Okay, and then us people in the West turn up and go, you know what, I'm gonna do fasting, and you get the benefits of fasting, right? Loads of benefits, right? But you know what, I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. I'm gonna throw in the water and I'm gonna do my own hours, whatever. And that's how I see it. Like, God has come up with so many amazing things in the Quran, like that are definitely amazing, like good for you. Yeah, it's crazy. It just keeps coming up and up and up with so many things, right? Okay.
mm.
And God is the one who came up with the idea, and we in the West come up with it and just tweak it a little bit and say that's fine. Sure, you're going to get some benefits, but I think you're going to find that long term is going to mess things up. And just to give you an idea, it's not 100% theory what I said. So for what I've researched in my tiny bit of research, for the benefits of fasting to actually happen, you need to dry up some water reserves for it actually to dig into the fat and the waste and all the stuff
Mm.
that, so you're actually slowed down the process. Now, I'm not a believer in super speed, but you're kind of just diluting the effect and you're taking longer than it kind of needs to. And who knows what else damage. And I'm just going to throw in one more thing, but maybe I shouldn't, but maybe I'll just throw it in. Circadian rhythm, I can't remember how to even say it, right? Your natural cycle, your whole body works according to daylight hours and night hours. It functions completely different even at the cellular level, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So the Muslim fasting is 100% along this, using the sunlight. It gets changed according to the daylight hours. It's not like do X number of hours every day.
Mm.
Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I could go more, a bit more, but
Yeah, you see,
any thoughts?
I get that, and I do see that there's a lot of physical benefits, but I've always just seen two things. The reason why I'll do intermittent fasting is one way it's I find that to be a more authentic lifestyle in a way. I think this 3 meals a day business is quite a modern convention. People in the past didn't eat 3 meals a day. At the time of, I know at the time, I mean, I've studied the Bible. At the time of Jesus, it was often 1 meal a day. Worker would work 12 hours a day, they'd come
Prophet
home.
Muhammad had 2 meals a day. Yeah,
Barely,
yeah.
barely he'd have
Mm.
2 meals a day.
Barely, yeah,
Often
that's
he
true
would
as
come
well.
home, he'd talk to his wives, is there anything to eat? No, there's nothing to eat. Okay, I'm going to fast today. Sometimes he wouldn't eat for days. You know, he was speaking to his daughter, who said complained a little bit that she was a bit hungry, and he said, "No food has touched your father's mouth for 3 days."
Wow,
So,
crazy.
and there's an ancient tradition in Islam as well, where one person said, I mean, I don't know whether I fully agree, but he basically said the the people who eat once a day are the prophets. The people who eat twice a day are the scholars and the saints. The people who eat 3 times a day, give them a trough. We know what animals eat out of. Give them that.
Uh-oh, I'm in
So
trouble, man.
it is a bit harsh,
Yeah,
but it shows the
yeah.
lesson that I think this 3 meals a day. I don't think we were built for that either.
Mm,
Now, my intermittent fasting is not to get this huge health benefits and stuff like that. To be honest, it's just it's ease for me. The reason why, and this is my own weakness of why I don't do a lot of the Islamic fasts, is because yeah, you got to wake up really early. You got to say your prayers, and I don't consider the Islamic fast to simply be don't eat or drink. There's
mm.
your whole body needs to fast. You know, your eyes are fasting, your mouth is fasting, everything. You look at something dodgy, you've nullified your fast. You hear something dodgy, you've nullified it. It's it's really, and you got to be strict in that sense. You got to be really focused. And then the people in the past used to have a fast, and then they used to open their fast. It'd be like they used to pray to God, you know, please. I hope that you've accepted my fast, unless, and they were really scared. They were freaked out that they had
I
done
think what
something.
you sound like what's happened. There's a lot you've seen a lot of people. It sounds like, right,
Mm,
and I've probably seen the same stuff,
go
right,
on.
where they're fasting on an outward level, and their behavior isn't great, and we often get put off by that, and sometimes we go the other direction, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will do. I think I will start fasting. I was talking to my wife that I
Yeah,
should start fast on Thursdays, as is the tradition in
yeah.
Islam. My own weakness is, yeah, it's just that I
No, but
wake
like,
up in the
okay, I
morning.
fast once a week, right? I could
Hmm.
fast twice a week. I used to when I was younger, whatever, right? But and it is pretty relaxed. It's not like I go out and start going, I'm fasting, I'm gonna start sinning. That's the plan. Do you know what I mean? It's like it slows me down and I'm more aware. And like, a goal is just to be better. That's it.
Yeah, I completely
Yeah.
agree. It's
I
what
mean,
I
there's a
would.
lot of goals, but
Yeah,
that's
I
one of
wouldn't.
them.
For me, I don't compare intermittent fasting with the Islamic fasting. I think the Islamic fasting, I try to spiritualize it a lot more
Mm.
than just not eating or drinking and things like that. I mean, for
I
me,
think
that's
it's
that's
a
the way it
mix.
kind of
For
works.
me, it's a mix of two, both, and it's
Hmm.
Islamically. the physical body affects your spirituality. You probably know
Yeah,
this
that's
kind of
true as
stuff,
well.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I do it as a break because I work like crazy otherwise. That's my nature. Like I'll work 24 hours. And so stop once a week to slow me down. And then I speed up again and I slow down, speed up. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah,
one of them. And I
a kind of
it's
battery
my ego
recharge.
pushing me to work hard as well. My ego is like, oh, I'm a failure. I want to achieve more, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Good
Mm.
conversation.
Cool.
Next one. Where are you? Question. There it is. Another fun one. Okay. All right.
Ah, I don't know much about this,
Yay!
and yeah,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
a
It's
tough
okay.
one.
Let's have a fun conversation where people go, "Oh, how dare you?" Which is the best kind of conversation, the stuff you're not supposed to say, right? Okay, which is a dangerous place to be. So where we think we're not in a dictatorship, but right now on YouTube, I have to be really careful. I can't say a lot of things, right? This
You've
is
been censored. Have you been?
no, I haven't. But everybody, if you go to any YouTube channel talking about this and they're against it, they're incredibly careful. There's a ton of regulation. Yeah, loads of people get censored all the time.
Hmm.
So it's a very interesting time just to begin with, right?
Yeah, I know
Okay.
people on Facebook who will comment on this who are not in favor of it, but they will intentionally misspell vaccine so that the Facebook algorithms don't pick it up and delete their posts
Yeah,
and
I
stuff like
found out
that.
I was like dumb enough to write COVID-19 on one of my videos, right? So it didn't get stopped, but I couldn't really promote it or something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
normally I just write COVID. So anyway, um, so this show, just to get kind of the big picture, this is not just a conversation about COVID or whatever, right? It's the bigger picture is how do we get to the truth? That's what the show, kind of the
Mhm.
main title was. This is an experiment in how do you do that? Okay. And there's a whole bunch of different angles. So one thing, and let's just have a conversation. How did I start going down the route that I don't trust the vaccine? Like
Mhm.
there are a couple of red flags. Okay, one was GM, genetic modified stuff. Right. Here's a
Mhm.
funny thing about our psychology as the Western nation. Right. Probably before COVID, before the pandemic, I think most people are pretty scared of GM. Like GM food, are you kidding me? I'm not eating that. We're all big on organic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But suddenly these vaccines come, and I'm not sure, but I think half the people realized they were genetically modified. I mean, did you realize they're genetically
Yeah, I
modified?
kind of knew of him, of
Right?
vaguely knew of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're kind of purposely vaguely, right? I would say, right? It's like, you know what? Yay, Salim, my farmer friend. Thanks for the chickens today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, really appreciate. I was in the middle of a show. I mean, not in, I was in the middle of a class. Your wife came, so I couldn't really answer properly. But I want to say jazakallah for those chickens that you slaughtered yourself. So I appreciate it. Healthy chickens. But
Non-GM
let's
food,
just put
isn't it?
your comment as well, whatever you said. Um, is Islam aligned to human psychology? So I'm going to try to weave that in because we're already on the last question, but I appreciate you putting a question in there, right? And we kind of answered that a little bit before, like I was talking about shaking hands, oxytocin. So yeah, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ages ago said, if you shake hands, it will reduce the bad feelings between you. And now science tells you, like over 1,500 years later, oh, actually, it's completely right. There's a million different things like that, right? So yes, is a short answer. Islam is totally in line with psychology. I've been so into psychology since I was a kid, and I see Prophet Muhammad as the one of the greatest, if not the greatest, psychologist. Maybe obviously he was inspired by God, right? And even the Quran is a very psychological book. It's not just facts, it's like facts that talk to your spirit if you take the time to listen to it. So it's not,
Mm.
it's a psychological book. So that'll be a quick answer. So, and let's talk a bit more about psychology here. Why do people believe COVID vaccine? It was like, so I automatically don't follow the crowd, my default, right? And
Mm.
I find it almost entertaining how most of the world does kind of just follow each other blindly. Okay. Especially with regards to GM. Like you're splicing up these bits of DNA, RNA. RNA is just a piece of DNA, right? We don't have a clue about how these things work. And if people think they have a clue, they have no idea what's going on. Okay. So DNA is like an incredibly complicated computer program. Now, do you still program? Are you just
A
SQL
little
or
bit I do. Yes, I
a
do
little
some
bit? I
programming.
mean, SQL, I mean, I'm not going to get all techie, but it's kind of like you can there's less freedom, so it's less complicated, I would say,
It's
right?
quite
Because
simple compared to other
you're
languages. Yeah.
selecting stuff. You're selecting stuff from a database. But so when you go to normal programming, and maybe people can imagine this, normal programming, you get one line wrong, the whole thing's screwed up. The whole is going to crash. Okay. Okay. So DNA is the most complicated computer program ever. It's insanely complicated. Just to give you an idea, there's 1% difference between a human being and a chimpanzee in terms of DNA. Did you know that?
Mm.
Right? You mess it up, you probably won't be a chimpanzee. You'll be dead. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good reasons why people are really scared of genetically modifying things before
So should we not
before the
trust
pandemic.
the scientists who do all of this though? Because they've
Cool. So this
done
is the
lots of studies,
next
haven't they?
stage. This is the next stage, right?
Mm.
Okay, let's call these scientists doctors for a minute, right?
Okay.
Different kinds of scientists. So there's lots of doctors that I've been debating with, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and let me give you the short version. None of them can answer my questions, right? Okay, they're really simple things. Okay, I'd love to have a doctor join in, right, and say anything otherwise, right? So, um, so we've got so okay, how can we trust all doctors? First of all, there's a really simple truth that there's loads of doctors against the vaccine, loads of them, right? So that's just not even an argument straight away. But then you might say there's loads of doctors, there's more doctors who support it than are against it.
Yeah.
Okay, there's psychological, very good psychological reasons we have to bear in mind. Okay, when
Mhm.
why that is. So did you know that at one point doctors used to prescribe cigarettes,
This is going back in the
right?
previous century, isn't it?
Well, 50s, yeah, 50s, I
Yeah.
think, right? It's not that
Okay.
long ago, right? But when you go, oh, yeah, you go, oh, that's in the past. Actually, it's not in the past. Okay, yes, they don't prescribe cigarettes anymore, right? But they do, and this is psychologists have put this, shown this, demonstrated this. If a drug company puts a drug in front of them, they give that drug. They're
Mm.
easily manipulated, right? But then there's a different level of manipulation. That's one level of manipulation. That's why psychology is so important. Okay. Another level of manipulation is there's a really funny quote. It's also quite sad if you actually realize the consequences of it. It says, it's very hard. I'll probably mess this quote up, but it goes something like, it's very hard to convince a person whose salary depends on them not being convinced.
Mm.
Right? So there's a lot of pressure on doctors to say COVID jab works.
If they don't, they get out. They get kicked out.
Yeah. Now, deep down, this is, I call it a kind of interesting version of Stockholm syndrome. Ever heard of it?
No.
It's like basically you start loving your captor, your bully, or whatever you call
All
it,
right. Okay.
right? So you don't want to feel like you're a loser and you're just manipulated by your job and you're doing
So
you're
you
selling
convince yourself,
drugs.
you're saying
So
basically.
you convince yourself that you're doing the right thing, right? So anyway, I said to some doctors, right? Because
Mm.
these doctors were saying, and this is like old news, it was knocked out ages ago, but they're still saying it, and this is how bad these really like decent level doctors are, right? Okay, one in the UK, one in America. I was debating them, and they go, these COVID jabs. The reason why you take it is not for yourself. You're taking it for other people. Like you're reducing the spread. That was the myth that was being spread around,
That
right?
was quite
The,
early though, wasn't it? I think now that's
yeah,
kind of
it's amazing. This is only. I was shocked that these doctors were still saying it.
even now.
Yeah. And then I
Okay
gave
then.
them a really simple bit of logic, okay, and they had no answer and they stopped debating with me, just disappeared. That's kind of a lack of honesty, really. I don't want to be rude to
Mm.
people. Everybody's dishonest at different levels, right?
Yeah,
Maybe it's hard
yeah.
to swallow that pill, right? Okay. But here's a simple bit of logic, okay? If you look at kids, they are basically the most immune. If we keep it simple, immune let's not get technical. Let's call it immune. You can call it something else if you want, right? And
Yeah.
they are the biggest spreaders.
Yep.
So immunity has no relationship to how much you spread. In fact, it's an inverse relationship. It's an opposite relationship,
More immune you are. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They're
The more,
like
and it
rats.
makes sense that you spread it more.
Sorry, I
And
shouldn't say
guess
that.
what? Here's an interesting fact to finish off. In Europe, the most vaccinated place has the most spread of the virus. Africa, least vaccinated, least spread of the virus, and least deaths. Facts. You can check these up. Go to the Google,
Could
whatever.
that be because Africa don't aren't very good at testing?
Yeah, that could be a different reason, but
Yeah.
basically, I mean,
I don't know. I don't
they're
know.
not
But yeah,
dying.
I've
I
heard
mean,
Israel has is one of the most heaviest vaccinated countries.
yeah, and
No,
they're also
cities.
massive problems, but yeah.
They've got quite a
Anyway,
few big
time is
cases.
up. We had fun because time
Hey.
ran out quick. I know,
Mhm.
exactly. I want to thank you, Mashoud. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I want to thank all the people who are watching now or later. Please do like the video, not because I care about if you like the video, but if you care, you think the message of the show is important and you like it, it will encourage you to tell other people. And that's it. Otherwise, please join me next week and we'll be talking about how to change the mistakes in your life. Peace be upon you. Till next week. Let me end the stream. We can
There
have
we
a
go.
cup